as Mary suggested, we're going to talk about things in the sky in April. And I'm filling in for Kathy Vicari, who's out sick, but we'll be back next month. So she gave me a copy of the slides, so I'm presenting, but any mistakes I make are mine, not Kathy's. So first thing we're going to talk about today is the moon. And the moon's been in the news lately. Many of you may have seen some news about the moon. Uh, and so on the 1st of April, we had a launch of Artemis 2, which is a 10-day mission to test life support systems and docking maneuvers, which doesn't sound that exciting to me. But the exciting part is they're going to the moon and fly around the moon and actually take pictures of the dark side of the moon, which we never see from Earth. And they'll also be going farther than man has ever gone in space. So, man or woman, since there's a woman on the crew, and even there's a Canadian on the crew. Who would have thought that we'd allow a Canadian to fly into space with us, with all the tension between the U.S. and Canada? But it's happening. So one of the crew members is Canadian. Here's a rundown. Thanks to Mark Zadarsky for providing this on the actual itinerary of the craft. So day one was April 1st, and they're launching. And day two happened yesterday, where they had a translunar injection burn. What that means is they turned a little bit and are headed off to the moon. So they've already done the day two moon departure. So we're in day three now en route. And on day 6, Monday, they're going to do the lunar flyby down here, where they actually fly around the moon. Okay, so they're going to fly around once and come back to Earth, and then do some operational things, and then do a splashdown in the ocean. So that's the itinerary. Another thing about the moon is, if you look out tonight, you'll see that the moon looks smaller. At least to close observers of the moon, it's smaller. And it's called a micromoon. It's about 11% smaller than the average moon. And the reason it's smaller is it's farther away. The moon doesn't actually orbit the Earth in a circle, it orbits in an ellipse. So sometimes it's farther away, sometimes it's closer. If it's closer, it's a supermoon. If it's farther away, it's a mini moon. So it's actually going to be 405,000 kilometers away as a mini moon, and the average is about 384,000 kilometers. The moon is the full moon is actually called a pink moon. Now it's not called pink because it is pink. It's called pink because there are flowers coming out, and some of which are pink. It's actually named after this creeping phlox flower. It's one of the first flowers to bloom in spring. So they renamed the moon, the first full moon of spring, the pink moon. So that's confusing. Okay, on to comets. Now, comets haven't been in the news for a while. Al Wiskel actually did a talk here last week on these two comets. There are going to be 2 in the sky this month. The first comet has the name C-2026 A1 MAPS. And MAPS is the acronym for the discoverers of the comet. The comet was discovered in January, so very recently, and it's coming in closest to the sun tomorrow, April 4th. So it will be going around the sun and then coming back toward Earth. Hopefully, it doesn't hit the sun and break up. We'll know tomorrow. If it makes it around the sun, it might be a spectacular comet, one that you can see without telescopes, without binoculars. But you can never tell. So it could fade out or it could become very bright. We'll see. Now, it's going to be very close to the sun. So use caution when viewing it. Don't look at the sun with binoculars or a telescope, okay? That's a no-no. The best chance for visual viewing is April 6th through 10th. So if you look outside and look at the constellation Pisces and then Taurus, that's where you'll see this comet. The second comet is going to be closest to the sun later in the month, April 19th. It's comet C-2025 R3. We'll call it comet R3. And it has actually a lower magnitude 2.8, so it won't be as bright. It will be closest to the Earth on April 26th and low in the west at sunset. So again, it's going to be very close to the sun. Now, this comet is different than the other comet. This comet has a hyperbolic orbit. Anybody know what a hyperbolic orbit is? Okay, so most comets come back around multiple times. Sometimes the period is very long. That is, it takes the comet a long time to come back around the sun. A hyperbolic orbit is one that never comes back. It just goes around the sun once and then is ejected from our solar system. So we don't know yet. It could have a period of 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, or it may never come back. We'll see. We'll see over time. Okay, let's get into the planets now. A lot of planetary activity this month. So this chart lists 3 planets you can see clearly at night. Gemini, Taurus, and Venus over here. Or sorry, Jupiter, Uranus, and Venus in Gemini, Taurus, and then farther west, you'll see Venus, okay? So let's go through when you can see the planets and configurations of the planets this month. So Jupiter is bright. If you were looking at the telescope, Jupiter is bright in the constellation Gemini. So Gemini as a constellation is a pair of twins. One twin is Castor, the other is Pollux. And on Earth Day, April 22nd, so that should be easy to remember, 9:30, if you go out, you'll see the moon right next to Jupiter. So that's a great sight. You can go out in your backyard and pick out Jupiter and the moon in the constellation Gemini. Okay, another item in the news is that they discovered some new moons around Jupiter. So believe it or not, we haven't discovered everything in our solar system. And moons is one of those things. We're now discovering smaller and smaller moons around the planet. So for Jupiter, we discovered 4 new moons. This is a picture by Tony Sharpman. You see here the red spot of the moon, and it's a nice picture. And here's another picture by Cliff Ashcraft. Cliff was on the video earlier tonight, and he can take marvelous photos from his backyard observatory in New Jersey. It's truly amazing picture. Okay, another thing you can see in Gemini is Castor and Pollux are not only twins, but they're stars, and they're the heads of the twins in the constellation. The thing about looking at these stars is they're actually different colors. So if you look through a pair of binoculars or a small telescope, you'll see Castor is blue-white and Pollux is yellow. So you can see the different colors of stars just looking at this one constellation. Okay, let's go on to Mercury. So Mercury had a big event this morning. It was at its maximum elongation this morning at 6:30 a.m. So elongation means it's farthest away from the sun. Because Mercury is the planet closest to the sun, it's very hard to see without the sun's rays interfering. So this was the day to see Mercury. But luckily for you, there will be other days to see Mercury this month as well. So if you go out on the morning just before dawn on the 16th, what you'll see is Mercury here, but you'll see a bunch of other planets as well: Neptune, Mars, Saturn, and the Moon all together in the sky. So I would go at about 5:30, maybe 5:15, and then wait a few minutes to see them. The trick here is you're going to have to find a place where you can see the eastern sky. So you might not be able to see it well in your neighborhood. So find a place where you can see the eastern sky, and then you can pick out many planets. The only planet that you'll really have trouble seeing with the naked eye is Neptune. You probably need binoculars or telescope to see Neptune. And that's in the constellation Pisces. All right. So Jupiter's not the only planet that has new moons. Saturn has 11 new moons. And having 11 new moons means that Saturn has a total of 285 moons. So if you learned about, some of us older folks learned about Saturn having 50 moons when we went to school. Well, now it has 285, and it will keep increasing as they get more and more granular in their discoveries. So it's truly amazing how many moons Saturn has. And of course, Jupiter will never catch up, and it's pretty upset because it's the largest planet and it should have the most moons. But Saturn has.
Well, with Saturn, new moons actually form.
Exactly.
All the pieces, they coalesce. And sometimes the moons actually break apart because of the gravitational forces.
Exactly. So there's a lot of raw material in the rings that can make up these moons, right? And beyond. Okay, next observation is Venus. So Venus is going to transition from a morning planet to an evening planet this month. So if you go out on the 18th of April, at about 8:30, you'll see Venus and the moon together, and there'll be crescents, both be crescents. So you see crescent Venus next to a crescent moon. A spectacular view of the planet and the moon. So go outside, you'll be able to see with the naked eye both Venus and the moon at 8:30, provided it's clear, provided there are no clouds out there. Okay, and here's a picture by club member Wayne Zuhl. He took of the crescent moon. This is what Venus looks like. Not only does the moon have crescents, but Venus has crescents too, because it's closer to the Earth, closer to the sun than the Earth is. That's why it looks, why it has phases from the perspective of the Earth. It remains a bright evening object through October 2026. And in particular, in September, it's going to be very bright in the sky. Negative 4.4, that means extremely bright. So negative numbers in astronomy, to be confusing about it, means it's going to be brighter than the positive numbers. Okay, well, one last planetary conjunction is Uranus and Venus. They'll be out in Taurus. So if you go out on the 24th at about 8:45 p.m., you can see the two together in the western sky. It might require binoculars to see both planets. Probably Uranus will require binoculars, but Venus will be clearly visible with the naked eye. Okay, so if that weren't enough, we have another sight, and that's a meteor shower in April. So every April, we have a meteor shower and something to look up at the sky at. What you have to do for meteor showers is be very patient. So get your lawn chairs out, lounge back in your backyards, and look at the constellation Lyra.
Not in the daytime, though.
Not in the daytime. But it'll be warmer. So the meteor showers in December were pretty cold. But now you have warm weather, so no excuses. So if you look at the constellation Lyra, which contains the star Vega, you may have seen the movie Contact. Vega is where Jodie Foster went in that movie. But near the constellation Lyra, you'll see the Lyrids, and their period is the 14th through the 30th. But the peak time is April 22nd, again, Earth Day. So you have two events happening on Earth Day at about 3 a.m. So, hopefully somebody can stay up late and watch the Lyrids out, and you get a pretty good show. The Lyrids are one of the oldest meteor showers that we observe. They've been going on for over 2,600 years. So there are observations of the Lyrids by Chinese astronomers in the year 200 BCE. So that's how long we've been looking at this meteor shower. Now, meteor showers are caused by comets going through the solar system, and the comet Thatcher is the one that created the Lyrid meteor shower. So here you see Lyrid leaving some space dust, and that creates the shower that we see as a meteor shower.
One thing about
yes.
meteor showers, you shouldn't look at the constellation directly. You should, if you have a blanket or a chaise lounge or wherever, you should lay down and look toward the zenith, because from the constellation, the meteors will be going all different ways. But because it's rising in the east, it'll be best if you look up at the zenith.
So the comment is, don't just focus on the constellation, right? Focus on the broad swath of stars, because you might see the meteor in different parts of the sky, and that's a great point.
And when you see them, if you trace the path back, the path will trace right back to the constellation.
Right. Okay. So last topic we have to cover is our constellation of the month, Ursa Major. Does anybody know what Ursa Major means? Yes. Yes, go ahead. Yeah. Big bear. Big bear, exactly. So you see the bear here, and that's the constellation. And within the constellation, we have something called an asterism. An asterism is a subset of the stars forming the shape in the sky. Does anyone recognize the asterism that's part of the Big Bear in this picture?
Yeah, Big Dipper.
The Big Dipper, of course. Okay, and the Big Dipper is something that almost everybody can find in the sky. If you look in the north part of the sky, you should be able to find the Big Dipper. And the Big Dipper has been important for thousands of years because it's a way to find Polaris, around which all the other stars rotate in the sky, in the northern hemisphere. So if you go through these stars on the edge of the Big Dipper's pole here, it points to Polaris, which is the North Star right here. And that's been used in constellation or in navigation for a long time. And Kathy included a few cute pictures of bears in the slide. Okay, so different cultures have called the Big Dipper different names. Chinese called it star god. The Irish and Norwegians called it a wagon. The English called it a plow. And in the United States in the 18th century, it was called the flag of freedom. And that's because slaves who were trying to get from south to north would follow the Big Dipper for their freedom before the Civil War and after. Okay, so one handy thing to know about the Big Dipper is it changes where it is in the sky according to the season. So in spring, you'll see an upside down Big Dipper, at least at a certain hour of the night. In winter, it'll be sort of sideways, more flag-like, and in fall, it'll be more like a dipper. But you could also use this to tell time. So if you go outside at a certain time of night, you'll actually be able to tell the time from where the Big Dipper is in the sky. And I have a handout for those of you who didn't get it before that shows you how to tell time with the Big Dipper. So if you didn't get it and want a copy, I have it up here. Okay, so there's seven different stars in the Big Dipper, 4 in the bowl and 3 in the handle. One of the stars in the handle, though, is a double star, Mizar and Alcor. And we'll talk a little bit more about them now. So you should be able to see in a clear sky, you should be able to see separate stars, Alcor and Mizar, and they are connected. So it was actually in 1889, Mizar was the first binary star ever discovered by spectroscopic means. It was also the first binary star discovered through a telescope, but that was back in 1650, so it was far earlier. But that means that Mizar itself is close to Alcor, but also consists of 2 parts, Mizar A and Mizar B. So in 2009, it was discovered that Alcor itself has a companion star as well. So it's a binary, and it has 2 parts, Alcor A and Alcor B. And then finally, scientists now believe that the Alcor binary is gravitationally bound to a Mizar quadruple system. So not only is there Mizar A and Mizar B, but there are Mizar AA and Mizar AB, and so on. So there are 6 stars, all orbiting and connected to each other in that single space in the Big Dipper. Here you see a video of how the Big Dipper's shape has changed over time from 90,000 BC to 90,000 AD. So it's changing shape. But the stars of the Big Dipper are actually in one group. They're gravitationally moving together in the sky, or most of them are. The exception is Dubhe up in the corner here, sort of an odd star out in the constellation. Okay, there was a catalog made by Messier, and March was a big month for the Messier catalog because you can see all the Messier objects at some time in March. But he had 6 objects, Nerves and Major, were galaxies, 1 nebula, and 1 star pair. So the 4 galaxies are M81, that's Bode's galaxy, M82, Cigar Galaxy, M108, which is called the Surfboard Galaxy, and M109, which is a vacuum cleaner galaxy. I have no idea why it's a vacuum. The nebula is M97. That's called the Owl Nebula. So you may be able to see the owl, 2 eyes of the owl, and maybe a beak in there. And the last Messier object is called M40. And the story goes that Messier was looking for something else, but he happened on these 2 pairs of stars, and he was fascinated enough that he included it in his catalog. But it's the only Messier object that isn't a nebula, isn't a galaxy, and isn't a star cluster. It's just a couple of stars. So nobody really, at least in the stories I've read, nobody really knows why it's in the catalog. Okay, Tony Sharkman did some photography recently in March, taking some galaxy constellations, and they're just beautiful. So NGC 2336 is a barred spiral galaxy. in a constellation Pomelo
Pardalis.
Pardalis, thought to be 100 million light years away. And it's actually much larger than the Milky Way. It's about 200,000 light years wide. So it's a very big galaxy. But it's far away, so it's not that big in the sky. Just a beautiful photo. You can see actually in the arms that there are star-forming regions in the different arms of this galaxy. The second picture is NGC 4725. If you're wondering what NGC stands for, it stands for New General Catalog. It's another catalog of objects in the sky. And this is called a single arm galaxy, and it's about 40 million light years away. Just a beautiful galaxy. You had a question?
What's the galaxy?
Right here? I don't know. I should have looked that up, but I don't know off the top of my head. So I can look that up when after the talk. Okay, so just review some of the key dates. So on April 6th, you have the lunar flyby. On 6 to 10, you can see the MAPS comet. April 7th, they have the mini moon at apogee. That means it's farthest from the Earth, smallest at that point. April 16th, you have the configuration of all the planets, or a lot of the planets. April 18th, Venus and the moon will be together at dusk. Then on Earth Day, you have the Lyrid meteor shower and Jupiter and the crescent moon together in Gemini. Venus and Uranus within 1 degree on April 24th. And then the second comet you can see late in the month, comet R3, let's call it, when it's closest to the Earth. So there's a lot to see in Jupiter. You don't need a huge telescope like we have here at Sperry. You can go out in your backyard with a pair of binoculars and see many of these objects and configurations outside. So I'd like to acknowledge Kathy, who put the slides together, and all the people named on this slide. It's been a pleasure presenting to you tonight.